A day of remembrance.
Even though it's been 2 years, it feels like it happened yesterday.
A day of prayer.
A day of reflection.
The teachers, their faces was like really something too that you don't forget.
A day of protest.
I lay down for 77 minutes. I stand now for 77 minutes.
The Uvalde community pauses to mark 2 years since a school shooting claimed the lives of 19 fourth graders and 2 teachers.
Tonight, we share their stories of healing and how the community is transforming pain into purpose.
Tonight, the faces, the names we won't forget.
May 24th, 2022, forever changed Uvalde. 2 years later, the community is still scarred, but healing. Today has been a day of tributes and continued calls for change.
Meantime, tonight, for the first time, we're going to hear from a grandmother. That tragic day, she opened her home to the children who were escaping the gunfire. Our Lisa Nieves will have her emotional interview in 3 minutes. But first, in the last few hours, a candlelight vigil for the 21 victims. Tonight, a community showing each other comfort and love.
A moment to stop, a moment for this community to lean on one another.
On another heavy day.
This day is a day they are forcefully bonded.
And even though it's been 2 years, it feels like it happened yesterday.
In their minds every day, the 21 lives that are no longer with them.
But right now, this day is about the families and those lives that were lost.
David Hernandez, who goes by Theo David, lost 2 family members that day, Annabelle and Jackie.
They were like my kids. Every Hispanic feels the same way. I know it's like our family is our world.
He says his world has stopped.
And I want to blame everybody, but I can't.
Hernandez, who used to be a cop, had this to say.
And I wish those officers, if they hear me, learn from your mistakes. Don't do it again. And let's move on. Let's try to connect as a family again. And that's what we were. We were a family. Right now we're separated people.
The journey to heal is not easy.
In the presence of God, that's where people really heal.
Lead pastor of Revived Church Uvalde, Humberto Renovato, says he has seen families finally find peace.
We have an opportunity today to not be known for the history of our city, but now to be able to reroute the destiny of our city. You know, I want to make sure that our city is not known for tragedy, but for triumph.
And a noticeable change, and perhaps a sign of strength. We were told families who didn't attend last year's vigil did attend tonight. They said that last year was still too hard for them.
Hours before a gunman stepped foot inside Robb Elementary School, a grandmother down the street was celebrating. She had a job interview and was hired on the spot.
When she returned home, she heard a startling sound, gunfire. She knew something was wrong when sirens filled the air and helicopters hovered overhead.
In her first television interview, the grandmother shares with our Alicia Nieves how her home turned into a sanctuary. Alicia?
I heard about this story for the first time just days after the shooting, and this year was the year I finally got to meet that grandmother.
All those kids, thank God they made it. They made it here to this spot, and they went home.
2 years ago today, Leticia Chapa knew something serious was happening down the street at Robb Elementary School. She just didn't know what.
My little girl, my little 3-year-old, we were standing in front of the house looking down the road.
What Leticia witnessed next is an image forever ingrained in her mind.
And I noticed, I believe it was Miss Connors, she was running, and all the children were behind her.
From Robb Elementary, sprinting around the corner, down her street.
They didn't even know where they were going. They were just running.
Teacher after teacher led their students away from the gunman.
Yeah, and we just like, get it, you know, come over here, run this way. and hide.
The first group hid behind a cobblestone porch next door.
Some of them were really scared and crying.
When the rest of the children arrived, they hid in the yard between her house and her neighbor's house. She estimates close to 50 children took shelter at her home.
Zoe had a kitten, and she brought out her kitten and comfort the kids.
Leticia called the families of the children who she knew so they could safely reunite. She stayed in the front yard until the last child hopped on a bus to carpool to another pickup spot.
The teachers, their faces, that to me was like really something that you don't forget.
The next day, during her first shift at her new job,
we were getting threats.
More chaos as she discovered the place where she got hired was the same store where the gunman bought his AR-15.
Our bosses were literally walking around with their guns, security. It was just everybody was attacking the store.
She quit a day and a half later. Today, Leticia has a new job and a new frame of mind. She says now that her youngest is in school, she never goes far without her family.
Just things you didn't do before.
So this year, Leticia learned that her place is called the Safe House. That's what some of the children who she helped call her house when they retell this story. Live in Uvalde, Alicia Nieves, KENS 5.
Alicia, thank you for your work and for sharing her story. Arnulfo Reyes is a survivor. He's a former teacher at Robb Elementary. Today, Reyes leading loud calls for an end to gun violence.
I lay down for 77 minutes. I stand now for 77 minutes.
Reyes community members and fellow survivors calling for stricter gun laws, all mostly dressed in orange. That is the color of gun violence awareness. Reyes was in the two classrooms targeted by the gunman, and as you heard him, he says he laid down for 77 minutes in the classroom after being shot. So today, he and others stood for 77 minutes.
In their search for accountability, families of victims and survivors filed 2 more lawsuits today. One targets gun makers, the other Instagram and a video game maker. They followed a different lawsuit that families and their attorney announced on Wednesday. They're suing the Texas Department of Public Safety and other law enforcement agencies over their delayed response to the shooting. Today's additional lawsuits accuse gun makers of marketing AR-15s to children. The third lawsuit names social media and video game companies for allegedly helping gun makers to prey on children. We have more on these lawsuits on KENS5.com.
And tonight, there's still no word on an update on the special grand jury in Uvalde. They will determine if any criminal charges will be filed against law enforcement. The grand jury convened in January, just one day after that scathing report was released from the Department of Justice, the DOJ finding major failures in law enforcement's response. Earlier this week, we contacted the DA's office for an update. Tonight, we're still waiting to hear back. Meantime, the Texas Tribune reports it also contacted the Uvalde DA for comment. However, they say the DA told them, or they declined to comment.
Construction continues on a new campus to replace Robb Elementary. District officials giving us a look at the site today. This is at the intersection of Leona and 4th Street. Ground was broken in March. The project is estimated to cost $51 million. So far, 68% of the funds needed to build the school have been raised, but more donations are needed.
We are actively seeking, state, federal, private, corporate, all kinds of different, anybody that we can talk to about the school and the need. We definitely need that to be able to finish the fundraising project.
Here's a look at what the school will look like once completed. The school remains unnamed and is expected to open in fall of 2025. For information on making a donation, visit our website. Also today, the Children's Bereavement Center honored the 21 victims through song and a butterfly release. The Children's Bereavement Center of South Texas is a safe haven for kids who were affected by the loss of a loved one.
And 2 years later, the organization continues to help families. Zach Briggs shows us how.
We have good days, we have bad days, but just being able to talk to someone here is helpful.
After that dark day at Robb Elementary, Liza Pettis and her kids searched for sanctuary.
The Children's Bereavement Center has been our saving grace.
The Children's Bereavement Center of South Texas began providing grief support alongside other organizations immediately following the tragedy. This was June of last year when survivors like Emmanuel Pettis helped dedicate the completion of the center's permanent site.
I didn't have to wait long to.
These days, Emmanuel is thinking more about his plans for the summer.
Continue playing Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, and play some Minecraft.
But Emmanuel's also cherished the time he, his mother, and sister Miliana have spent at the center.
I get to share what I saw or how I felt.
It makes me feel good that, you know, the kids are comfortable with the counselors here at the center and with everyone. I mean, we know everyone in the center. It's like our second family.
A second family helping mend the wounds along the uncertain journey of grief.
Last year the Spurs came to the camps. We went to a ranch, but we spent a lot of time with healing circles. And I really believe that the outdoors environment is healing too.
Healing and transformation, which Dr. Marian Sokol says will take time. The Children's Bereavement Center of South Texas, here for the long haul.
We feel that this is our mission. We know we can't be everywhere, but Uvalde is certainly unique, and this community needs us.
Zach Briggs, KENS 5.
A run to remember the 21 lives lost on this day 2 years ago is complete. There she is, Paloma Gonzalez, arriving in Uvalde around 5:30 tonight. She made the 70-mile trek from far west San Antonio to the town plaza. We brought you her story last night. There she was, greeted today by cheers and overwhelming support from the community.
I wanted you to know that you went through the most horrible thing, but you don't have to go through it alone, because you do have other communities that have your back.
Gonzalez even created a GoFundMe to collect money for a scholarship, and you see here she presented a $1,000 check to Uvalde senior Caden Smith. She also says that she raised enough money to help more students out with college.
And as we go to break, we remember the 21 lives we lost 2 years ago on this day. We'll be right back.